Hello, the Internet. My name is Jack O'Brien. I'm the founder and former editor-in-chief of Crack.com and the host of the new comedic news podcast, The Daily Zeitgeist.
And I'm Miles Gray, Jack's co-host. The Daily Zeitgeist is a daily comedic news podcast for people who like Crack.com. Are you okay? Do you want some water?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay, well, also, if you like podcasts from How Stuff Works, and getting the news from some of the funniest and smartest comedic and journalistic minds around, go to Apple Podcasts to listen and subscribe.
I think we got that.
Don Batard.
Chris, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
I got Tyron Smith, I'm sorry. They were talking back here, so they were making me a little nervous.
Don't make excuses.
Tyron Smith holding a football in his hands. It looked so small.
Stugotz.
Wow, you limped in with that effort, Chris.
I got rattled right before I went on air, and I'm just going to turn my mic off.
All
now.
right.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Now you can test drive Snapshot even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you could save before you make the switch. Dante Jones going to join us in just a minute here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get to the bottom of this Coach K story. Here's your SportsCenter update. Tennessee has parted ways with athletic director John Currie. The NCAA banned the Ole Miss Rebels football team from playing in the postseason again next season, and the Rebels also received additional scholarship deductions in the ruling the university received from the NCAA Committee on Infractions on Friday, sources told ESPN. And finally, Applebee's is selling $1 Long Island iced teas for the rest of the year.
$1?
It's amazing.
How do you even do that? $1 Long Island iced teas?
Yep, they're doing it. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
I'm going there right now. Can I leave right now? What are the consequences? Applebee's a big ESPN sponsor, right? What are the consequences if I leave right now because I just heard that they've got a deal on $1 iced teas for the rest of the month, and I want to spend $1,000 before the end of the month?
Leaving me alone to finish the show?
Those are the consequences?
Yes.
All right.
With Dante Jones.
We won't do it because Stugotz, during the break, I'm not making this up.
What happened?
I'm not making this up, Mike Ryan. I'm not making this up, Guillermo. Dan, a lot of people on Twitter want a 30 for 30 on Tennessee before the end of the show.
They do.
That just happened.
Everyone. All my mentions flooded.
You tried that one earlier this week, don't you remember? It was terrible. That's how that
but now
last
there's some
one
new
started.
Wrinkles here, you know?
Is Dante Jones there? Have we found him yet?
He's disappeared. We have the 3 dots on the text right now.
Okay.
Possibly backtracking because he heard what this was going to be about.
He is totally hiding from this story.
Okay,
we will
it's
try
ringing
and
right
find
now.
him.
I will give you some backstory as to why he might be a little shook, though, because I tracked down Andy Means on Twitter that says Andy Means is, by the way, a former walk-on. He was on the team the same time that Dante Jones was, and he says that there were several inaccuracies in Dante's story, not to mention the embellishments of lighting the whole floor on fire, and also embellishing we could have died. But yes, he confirms the motivational tactic did occur.
I'm going to tell you on the front end of this interview, if he embellished it, I don't care. Sometimes a story needs embellishment. Most times stories need embellishment. And if that's what Dante did in an effort to make your TV show more entertaining, I am good with it.
All right. Well, is he there or is he not there yet?
Allison's yelling right now, and she's losing some points in her Happy Fest.
Okay, so before we get to Dante Jones, then, can you just play the last time a story like this came under this kind of scrutiny on our show was Martellus Bennett was telling us the story of a fight he got in childhood. And I didn't care whether the details were true or not. I was amazed by the details, and the key to a good lie is in the details. So I'm okay with Martellus Bennett telling this story this way.
So I'm from A-Leaf, which is kind of rough in Houston, but then we moved to Kingwood. My dad got the job at Enron, but then Enron shut down. So then we moved back to A-Leaf. And a bunch of kids in the area we moved to, they didn't know me and Michael were from there. So they thought we were like 2 black kids from this rich area called Kingwood. And so they had these 2 kids, this kid named Sabinus, and he was just watching us move our stuff. And my dad was like, "You gonna have to beat that kid up." And I was like, "Dang, Dad, I just moved here. Why am I have to beat him up?" And like a couple of days later, I'm outside practicing basketball, working on my free throws. So they come up, I'm trying to make friends. I pass him the ball. He boosts my ball down the cul-de-sac. So at that point, I was like, man. So I just jog. I'm like, I can work on my conditioning right now. I'm trying to be positive. So I jog down and go get my balls. 2 of them wanted me. So I come back. I was like, oh, so obviously you guys don't want to play. So I just kept shooting. I was like, never mind these guys. So I'm watching them, though. I'm looking at their shadows. I was really big on Jet Li and Jackie Chan at this time, Rumble in the Bronx and all these movies. And I know a lot of karate. I'm Donatello and the Ninja Turtles and everything like that. So I'm watching their shadows. And while I'm dribbling, you're supposed to look up when you dribble, but I'm looking at the ground, so I'm watching them because I feel like they're going to try something. So the Sabinas, he kind of tall kid, he ran up on me. I let the ball bounce, and I just hit him with an elbow, and then I hit him with a back fist like this, bam! Then I turn around, squared up on it, and his homeboy was like, oh, snap! Hey, you messing with the wrong kid today. So I started whipping up on him. Bam, 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 bam. So I'm whipping him up, right, and his homeboy not jumping in. So he falls down, hit the ground, he's just laying there. And I get really mad, so I just turn around and I punch him. Bam! I knock him out. I don't have a knuckle on this fist to this day because of that. I had a hairline fracture in my wrist from punching him. So I go into the house after I knock him out. He's sitting Indian style in my driveway. And I go tell my dad, I was like, Dad, I knocked that kid out you don't like. And he was like, where he at? And he's getting out, putting his robe on, going outside. So like he's outside in the front yard. So by this time the whole neighborhood's out. So my dad goes, Martellus, whoop him again. So now I have to whoop him in front of all the neighborhood. So I get back up. I beat him up in front of the whole neighborhood. Bam, bam, bam. I'm whooping. I'm nice with the hands, too. You know, this is part of Bennett tradition. You have to be nice with the hands. So I whoop him again. So I knock him down again. Then my dad's like, drag him home. So now I grab then I grab him by the leg. And I drag him 4 blocks to his house on the concrete. He's all skint up, his bow is skint up, but no one in the neighborhood ever messed with me again after that.
So I don't know if that story is true, but the details are amazing.
And I don't care.
No, I don't care either. And so Dante Jones joins us now, and the reason he's joining us, and thank you for joining us, Dante, is because you told us, we haven't even aired this interview yet on Highly Questionable, or maybe we interviewed it. Okay, so we ran it yesterday.
All right.
And Dante Jones tells the story of Coach K and a pregame speech. And Dante, thank you for making the time for us. There are some people here who are skeptical of your story. So for those who don't know, because I'm with you and I loved your story, but for those who don't know, can you explain to them the flaming spear story of the motivational story?
Yeah, the motivational was, I guess it was attacking and the whole fighting spirit thing, and when I guess he set it up to be for the arrow to land on some wet towels that were neatly placed.
But hold on a second. You got to explain to people the whole story. So what's happening before this? What's happening? Explain to us everything that's happening around the scene. You guys are getting ready for a game against somebody.
Right, we're getting ready for a game against Michigan, and it's a big game. Michigan is a good team right now. I think they're like a top 10 team. So,
and where is the game? Is it at home or on the road?
It's at Cameron.
Okay.
So it's at Cameron, and we're sitting in our locker room and waiting for his daily motivation because that's what one of the best things he does is he's an amazing motivator. So waiting for him coming to his speech, and then he comes through. When he comes in the room, it's dark, and he plays a video of Braveheart, and I forget the actor. Who's the actor in Braveheart?
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson's on the horse, and he gets his speech, and with the war paint on, he has his arrow, and they're going to go to battle, and he throws the arrow, and then one of the managers walks the flaming arrow in the locker room. And when he walked it in, Coach gave his speech and somewhat of it's time to charge and we got to attack and takes it and throws it to the towels, but misses, and it catches the floor and the wall on fire. And then now everybody's saying, "Oh my God!"
Okay,
went out there, lost it, and destroyed Michigan.
All right, so how long is it? An arrow or is it a spear? How big is this thing that Coach K is coming into the locker room with?
It's an arrow.
Okay,
he didn't come with it. Somebody brought it to him after he finished his speech.
Okay, somebody brought him an arrow. Now, did it have a bow or no bow? It's just an arrow.
Just an arrow, no bow.
Okay, but the arrow's on fire. All right, but the arrow is on fire when it's being handed to Coach K.
Right.
Okay, so now Coach K is throwing a flaming arrow.
Are you scared, man?
Flaming arrow in a room full of...
No, because it's not like it's a huge flame. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like it's not a war arrow. It's not like a torch. So we understood what he was doing, but it just kind of like backfired a little bit.
Was Coach K wearing the Braveheart war paint?
No war paint. He had his classic suit. He came in buttoned up.
How much did he miss the wet towels by?
Wow, that I don't know because at that point in time all you saw was fire.
All right,
so,
how much fire?
How much fire?
He had it too fast to actually pinpoint where he missed and where he hit. It was fire on the carpet and on the wall, and they took care of that fast. But all I know is that I got excited and charged out of the locker room, and that's all you saw. So you saw part of the locker room on fire, and you got there.
I mean, Guillermo, do you not believe this story? I believe his story. Why wouldn't I believe that story? Why would Dante Jones be making that up?
Dante, you have to understand that last week Dan told us about a talking dog, and we watched the video, and it was ventriloquist. So when he told us this story, we did not believe any of it. He believes those sharks that go swimming after hurricanes in the streets. He falls for all of this, so we didn't believe any of this story.
No, this is actually that's the best one I have. Like everything else, I think he toned it down. Like he has some stuff that like motivational stuff and like teamwork and leadership stuff that he does exercises that you wouldn't believe, like some of the stuff he does. But this one took the cake. Like, it was
but Dante, you're saying he probably realized the error of his mistakes after that fire got quickly expelled by somebody, right? He realized, I shouldn't do that anymore.
Right, yeah, that shouldn't happen, and we take that without the book.
All right, how much of the wall was on fire? Like, how much fire did you see in the locker room?
I know as I saw fire. When you see fire, you don't calculate how much fire you're seeing.
Right, you run. Yes.
Right, you run.
Yes. What a great sentence.
It was like cool fire.
How much fire?
What a great sentence. When you see fire, you don't calculate how much fire there is.
Wall fire. We out here.
It's such a
That's it. You just run out. You're right, Dante. You just run out.
It's such a good point.
But time out. What I do as I'm looking at this and I'm trying to remember what he did have was a manager with a fire extinguisher. So
always prepared
to get it out. So they had a fire extinguisher on hand, ready for this.
I believe it, man. I believe every detail he's giving.
But here's the problem, and I don't care if you embellished it, if it's a complete lie. I don't care because it's a great story.
It's a great story either way.
But Andy Means was a walk-on. Do you know Andy? He was a walk-on at Duke when you were there.
Yeah, I know Andy.
All right, he's disputing your entire story.
All right, well, no. Don't misrepresent Mike that way.
I'm sorry. Andy is disputing how much fire there was, how dangerous it was, fearing for your life, all that kind of
Mike,
stuff.
Mike, you talk to this guy.
No. Nobody. I just never started fearing for my life. You see fire, and where I'm from, fire is not really cool, so I'm out. Like, I'm not really. Like, we're not trying to assess the fire and try to take care of the fire.
We're trying to leave the fire.
Right. So Andy may understand the fire as being something else. Well, I've said before, the fire, like that's cool too. I don't do fire. You know what I mean?
I don't do fire.
Understood. Totally understood. Right? Everyone, man.
I've never been camping. Anybody's been camping before.
I've never been camping.
It's a different type of situation.
Yeah. It's so great. I don't know if he watches Curb Your Enthusiasm, but he sounds, I don't do fire. He sounds, tell me that doesn't sound like something out of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
What I do know is it worked. And we started out like a 29 or 30-year-old run on Michigan.
29?
It worked.
All right, we're going to look that part up. Thank you, Dante.
Right.
Thank you for being on with us, sir.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
God, that was funny.
Yeah, it was great. We should do a 30 for 30 on that.
Dan Batard.
Called common sense reporting, Dan. Connect the dots.
Stugotz.
I would not describe your sense as common.
This is the Dan Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
If you're new to the show, one of the things we do all the time around here is we break in without notice. It takes precedence over everything, no matter what we're doing. If Stephen A. Smith is super agitated about something, we break into First Take Programming. And during the break, Mike Ryan was very confused because, and Mike, please tell me what happened on television. You said you've never seen Stephen A. Smith so angry about something.
No, I've never seen Tim Tebow so mad about something. I would have had that happen while we were on the air. Tim Tebow would have gotten the Stephen A. scream, and we would have gone live to Tim Tebow yelling at Max Kellerman.
About what?
This college football playoff, man, it has people passionate and angry.
What is Tim Tebow yelling at Max Kellerman about the college football playoff?
I thought Max had a good point because Tim Tebow is, if Wisconsin gets in over Alabama, then stop saying it's the 4 best teams in the college football playoff because it's flatly not. And Max is like, chill out. That's sports. The best team doesn't always win. You got to win the game to get there. Wisconsin deserves to be there. And Tim Tebow was not having any of Max's sass.
Well, because Tim Tebow's all about winning, and he's still. Let's go up on him because he's still agitated. Let's see if we can hear from him now.
You're going to have everybody competing the entire year. Every game matters. Every game matters.
That's right.
What you're saying right now is every game doesn't matter. What you're saying is if you get hot at the end of the year, the beginning of the season doesn't matter. And I hate that. Every game should matter. Spring practice should matter, Stephen A.
Excuse me, Tim Tebow. The fact of the matter is, everybody, you can't play everybody. If you got a school that doesn't want to play you, what are you going to do?
Tell these ADs to show up and have a little bit of fortitude and play some big games. Why? Because it's good for the university.
Well, I agree with that.
It's good for recruiting, and it's good for college football.
I agree with that, but if you have
Guillermo, put on the poll. Did Tim Tebow want to say balls there? Did he edit himself because of the Bible?
Let those schools be scared and go to FCS or something and let the big boys compete for championships. Let them play each other and get this thing done.
You are wise, Tim Tebow.
I've never seen him that angry. I didn't know Tim Tebow could get angry. Put that on the poll, Guillermo, at Batard Show. Did you know that Tim Tebow could get mad, get angry, and argue with somebody?
Now he's laughing and smiling, and they're hamming it up. I don't like that.
That is a beautiful-looking man.
Yeah,
he dresses
really is.
well.
Yep.
I've never seen him that agitated.
He almost cursed.
I've never seen him without that halo over his head.
He was scanning, and he came up with fortitude.
Well, that was. I wonder. I loved how that happened. You just saw in real time, or you heard in real time, many of you, Tim Tebow scan. He wanted to say ball so badly there, and he just went fortitude. But we know, Tim, we saw it. You might have to go to confession about thinking that.
Forgive me, Father.
That's right. I almost said balls on television.
This college football playoff brings up.
It's made everyone crazy. You have reached a special place when college football has made everyone so crazy that Tim Tebow's yelling at people on television. I thought that Tim Tebow was going to go the remainder of his life being able to withstand the evil forces of First Take. Nope, they got him. He's in flames.
That show will break anyone.
They'll break anyone. They'll make anyone insane enough to start yelling. Like, honestly, what's more shocking to see in public? Tim Tebow yelling at somebody or Barack Obama yelling at somebody?
Tebow, easy. And this is what your team has done, by the way. Nobody wants to see them play, so you have Tim Tebow yelling at poor Max Kellerman.
Wisconsin, you did this. And you know you did this. This is the thing. Everyone in your community knows that. Wisconsin, you've made Tim Tebow upset with decades of fraudulence. You have disrespected Tim Tebow with this undefeated team of yours. Or wait a minute, do I have that wrong? Does he think...
No, I think he thinks Alabama should be in the Final Four.
He wants Alabama in there ahead of Wisconsin.
He's saying Wisconsin's played nobody, and Alabama's the big. They're one of the big boys. But I would also ask him who's Alabama played.
Don't tell me Wisconsin's one of the four best.
I mean, they
teams.
played Auburn. I get it. They lost too.
I mean, they played LSU. They played in the SEC. It's more respected than where Wisconsin plays. So Wisconsin didn't play any of the good teams in its conference.
I'd like to fight Tim Tebow on this whole SEC thing. Everyone just forgets that there's an east side of that conference that's terrible.
All right, hold on a second. Hold on. I want to go back for a second to the Dante Jones interview. He said the game started 29 or 30-0. Let's start fact-checking some things that we could fact-check, because I believe, Guillermo, put this on the poll as well. Do you believe Dante Jones' story? Because I absolutely do.
December 9th, 2000, Duke played against Michigan at home. They started off 34-2 run. He was a redshirt, so he wasn't playing, but that's the story he's talking about.
34-2 run, and what was the score at halftime of that game?
59-18.
So after Coach K threw an arrow, he downgraded it from a spear to an arrow.
He did.
But that's an important detail. Do you now believe the story? Are you more likely? We had a lot of cynics around here yesterday. Do you now believe the story more?
The whole story was a flaming spear when it was first told to us. An arrow,
right.
Much different.
Okay.
Much more believable,
All
yes.
right, well, wait a minute. Well, hold on a second. Do you have the portion of that interview where Dante Jones was absolutely sounding like Leon Black from Curb Your Enthusiasm? How much fire did you see in the locker room?
I know as I saw fire. When you see fire, you don't calculate how much fire you're seeing.
I mean, not only that, but this reminded me of the Leon Black character in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
No. Nobody. I just never started fearing for my life. You see fire, and where I'm from, fire is not really cool, so I'm out.
Come on. Fire's not really cool, so I'm out. Sounded just like Curb Your Enthusiasm's Leon Black.
Don Le Batard.
Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, they don't miss games. As Calvin Johnson retires early, it is pretty amazing to think how at the center of the violence, the Mannings don't get hit, right?
Stugotz.
No, you don't. You certainly don't with Peyton. I guess maybe a little with Eli, but for the most part, you don't. I offered you nothing there. I really do.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Reese Davis with us on ESPN Radio. You called it the best hair in the business or at the network?
It's certainly, he has the best hair of anyone at ESPN.
Oh, you said America. Actually, you said
that
America.
goes without question.
Right.
I got carried away with America, but certainly at ESPN.
We'll talk college football with him in a second. But Reese, first, thank you for joining us. Whose hair at the network do you look at and say that hair is better than mine?
Nobody. That's an easy one. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't look at anybody's and say that it's better. I mean, Steve Levy has a big, thick head of hair, but I'm not sure that it's better than mine necessarily. You know, Golick has like a wiry head of hair. It's thick and luscious, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's better than mine.
How about Will Kane? I mean, I think yours is better, Reese, but Will has a nice head of hair.
No, you know what? He's certainly on the podium. That's for sure. He keeps his coiffure in order, and I don't know what to think about a man that doesn't keep his coiffure in order.
Who else is on the stand? Who else is on this ESPN stand of we're giving medals for hair? Like, who are the three people? Is Marty Smith up there?
Yeah, you know what? I think Marty Smith and Tim Tebow both have good hair, and they it's a lot of product going on there with those guys. So, you know, I mean, if a football hits Marty on top of the head, it's going to puncture the ball. You know, but that's still, your hair has to be strong to be able to withstand that level of product.
White guys.
Ryan Clark, why isn't he on the stand?
Hey, you know what? He's got good hair too, and he's letting it grow a little bit now too, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, good. All right. Yeah. So excellent coverage, Reese.
Coverage is key because, you know, all of my basketball guys, I'm the only one who has any coverage on my head. The rest of them are bald.
Yes.
All right. So who's the guy at ESPN whose hair gets mocked the most? Like, who's the guy? If you said you don't respect a man who doesn't have, is it Van Pelt? Van Pelt takes ownership of not having hair. Do I need to be careful here? You don't want any part of this.
Well, no. You're looking for someone who has hair.
All right, it's fine, Bomb. We'll move on. Let's go.
Feinbaum probably needs to do a little more of the Phyllis action and just go ahead and trim it up nice and tight down the side. You know,
right.
Excellent advice. So, Reese, I'm curious, what can you tell us definitively? Like, give us by unit, by team, whatever it is you want to say. Because I thought last time you were on, I said I thought the best thing in the sport I'd seen was the Notre Dame offensive line. Since that, thank you. Thank you for laughing, bringing laughter right in my face. You said, no, Baker Mayfield is better at what he does than but what do you know? What do you know? Who do you know is good at what for sure?
I know for sure. I know this for sure, that the Clemson defensive front is the best position group in college football. Now, obviously, Baker's the best individual, and I think Baker's the best player. But that group, I know, will show up. And that's the one thing I think that we can know from Championship Saturday is that front four from Clemson will have an impact on the game. You know, will it be enough? I think it probably will be, but that's and you weren't totally wrong about Notre Dame, by the way. It's just Miami sort of took their swagger and their mojo, and they haven't been the same since that night.
That's how Miami used to do it in the old days, but then Miami goes to Pitt. Like, I think Clemson, to me, their resume, beating all those bowl teams on the road, their resume says they're good. Can you explain to me what happened at Syracuse? Because I didn't understand watching that game how Syracuse was able to throw the ball against Clemson.
Well, if they have a weakness, and they had some injuries in the secondary and still do, but if they have a weakness, it is in the secondary, particularly relative to their guys in the front. So Syracuse hit some big plays, and really there's no explanation for it, Dan, because Syracuse didn't win another game after that night beating Clemson. Now, I know their quarterback got hurt, but they didn't win again. The only way to explain what happened that night is what Lou Holtz said to me for 10 years sitting beside me. You have a different team every week. You don't have the same team every week. And they had a bad night. They didn't play well. Syracuse played above its head a little bit. Clemson didn't play its game. I've heard a lot of this about Kelly Bryant getting hurt, and certainly that impacted the game, but they were in trouble before Kelly went down. So, I think it was just the best way to explain it. One of those nights. It happens.
Reese, we were just listening.
Hold on a second. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Reese, we were just listening to an argument Tim Tebow was having on First Take. He thinks that Alabama should be in the Final Four. He doesn't think Wisconsin should be in the Final Four, even if Wisconsin wins the game against Ohio State this weekend. What are your thoughts there? I mean, because Dan and I have been laughing. We'd like the committee to sit back and say, you know what? Wisconsin's boring. We don't want them in the Final Four.
We feel like if everyone were being honest with the committee, they would just say, you know what? Nah, boring. And that would be their only announcement, because America doesn't want that team in that game, in those games.
I don't agree with Tim's judgment of the situation at all. Now, I understand what he's saying, because if you ask me who would win the game should those two teams play, I would think Alabama would win the game. But I think what the art form to this is, selecting teams, is that you find the mix of best and most deserving. And Wisconsin, with a victory in the Big Ten championship game, despite the fact that they play in the weakest division in Power 5, and this would really be their only resume-worthy win, having that 0 in the loss column, which is something that no one else has been able to do in the Power 5, to me is enough to put them in. And so I would disagree with that assessment, but I understand what Tim's saying, because I too, if Wisconsin and Alabama played, I would think Alabama would win the game.
How strong of an objection do you have if UCF beats Memphis and then wins its bowl game, if I go to the UCF campus and declare them national champions? If I personally go there, if they beat Memphis and then they win their bowl game, are you okay with that? If I understand, like we used to have a coach's title and a writer's title or whatever, and I'll just go and give them another national championship. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, you would be like the modern day version of the Collie Matrix or the Billingsley Award, or one of those old ones that gave away national championships in the day. So you can do that. I don't have a problem with it. I don't think you can play outside a Power 5 schedule and get into the playoffs unless you do what Houston did last year. And Houston beat Oklahoma, then they beat Louisville, but they screwed up their conference schedule. So if UCF had a couple of games like that on the resume in addition to it, then I'd say they ought to have a chance to play for it. But as far as you going and giving the Batard National Championship trophy, why not?
Yeah.
A lot of schools have those obscure, off the beaten path national championship trophies.
Who's better, UCF or Wisconsin?
Well, who wins? Who would you bet on to win a game? If UCF
neutral field,
UCF is playing Wisconsin. Who does Reese Davis got?
I think I'm going to tell you. I'm surprised. I would take Wisconsin. Because I think Wisconsin's been a little bit undersold on defense. Now, would it be a blowout? Would I be stunned beyond belief if UCF won? No, because I actually think UCF is going to win its bowl game. They're probably going to go to the Peach Bowl. I think they're going to beat Memphis tomorrow, and they'll probably play a team from the SEC. And before UCF fans get all up in arms and think that I'm about to go the disinterested route, which I am, let me say this. Even if the SEC opponent or whoever it might be, major conference opponent they played, even if they were interested, UCF could win the game. But when you also factor in that it is going to be highly unlikely that they are locked in and focused on it, then I think UCF is probably going to make an emphatic point, maybe not to the degree that TCU did a few years ago when they beat Ole Miss by $1 billion, but I think I would favor them to win their bowl game. But if you told me UCF, Wisconsin, playoff game, money on the table, I'd lean Wisconsin defense, because I think the Wisconsin defense is a little bit better than people give it credit for.
I mean, you're wrong and you're a quack, but that's okay. And we will all prove you wrong when I am declaring them the Dan Le Batard National Championships on their campus. But national champions, I want to know if you are surprised that Tim Tebow was just screaming at Stephen A. Smith on television about college football, screaming at him. He looked angry. Are you surprised by that?
Yes, because I think it doesn't take a lot to get Tim passionate, but to get him angry on TV, it surprises me a little bit.
This is what he did. He said somebody didn't have and he was going to go there, and then he said fortitude to do something. But he was going to say that some committee members didn't have he almost went grapefruits, but he had to edit himself.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was going to say balls.
Was it about the Wisconsin thing?
Yeah. Yes. And he was screaming at Max he was screaming at Stephen A. Smith, who was really mad about it.
Yeah. That's I'm surprised by that. But look, Stephen A. knows how to push a button or two now. You know that, Dan.
Well, that show will do it to you, Reese. That show will break you, man. That show will break you.
Reese, thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. See you later.
Don Batard.
Let this marinate for a second. Stugotz demands that someone be fired for a mistake made at work.
Yeah. Let it sit, people.
Stugotz
did not at any point check himself with the idea, man, I've made a lot of mistakes at work.
Yeah, that just dawned on me.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Reese Davis has been nice to our show, and I failed to mention one of the reasons that he was on with us, which is he is hosting the show on Sunday when everything gets announced at noon on ESPN. And he's probably rooting for some losses, so there's some intrigue. If everybody wins, everybody's going to be playing in the game.
Right, it's the selection show, and he's got to fill 4 hours. Imagine trying to fill 4 hours if the top 4 all wins.
Right.
What's he going to do?
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be more boring. You want the suspense of who's the 4 going to be.
Right.
That's what you want going into noon on Sunday.
You want to, maybe it's Alabama, maybe it's Ohio State. You need that. You need the suspense.
Do you really think Alabama's going to be kept out? Because Alabama...
Well, if all 4 win, yeah.
Yeah, but do you really think that that's going to happen? Because I feel like Alabama, with Nick Saban, he always catches the break. Like, Nick Saban's done. He's lost. He never gets left out of these games.
There are 2 secured spots. The ACC winner and the SEC winner. Those 2 are guaranteed. And then I guess if Wisconsin wins, they are guaranteed as well. So, Alabama needs Wisconsin to lose, and they probably need Oklahoma to lose. They need at least one of those 2 teams to lose. If both lose, they're definitely getting it.
Okay. Guillermo, put this on the poll. Is Nick Saban's deal with the devil such that he's going to get into this Final Four? That the things that need to happen because of the soul purchase or whatever it is that happened there with the devil.
With Art Briles.
Art Briles is there. Art Briles is not the devil. Art Briles is like a notary public. You think
not yet.
He's not the devil. He's
like Vice Devil.
He's hold on a second. I got to backtrack for a second here because Vice Devil made me think of the show that Stugotz does during the break, which is much better than the show he does or we do here. The show during the break. Let me tell you what the show during the break was, Mike. I'm not making this up, okay? I'm just sitting here. I'm doing nothing but like handling the day's business things I got to handle on my phone. And Stugotz just says to me, talking to no one in particular, because me and him are in the room alone together. He's not really talking to me. He's just saying things out loud, hoping that some of them
hoping something sticks.
Land somewhere. And this is what he says. Chris Sims just said, this is just how it happened. I'm looking at my computer. I'm half listening to him. None of the words you're about to hear come from my mouth. It's all Stugotz. And this is how it goes. Just like this. Chris Sims just said on the Dan Patrick Show that Blake Bortles is the 70th best quarterback in the NFL. No, wait, I'm not done. I was here for it. You don't listen to yourself.
I have no idea what
I'm not done. I'm not done. Do you think we should have Allison call to have him find out who is 69th best quarterback and his 71st? Yes, is the answer to that question. Allison, see if you could get Chris Sims on the phone before
it's stuck
1 p.m. today. Well, that's not even the funniest one that stuck. The funniest one that stuck was you and Guillermo making fun of Jeter and what Jeff Passan just did on Twitter, where Jeter is now on the route in Miami. Very quickly, what the most unpopular owner in the history of South Florida sports is the guy he replaced, and he has already used up all the goodwill that was in replacing one of the worst owners in the history of sports. And Jeff Passan just put on Twitter a picture of Derek Jeter and what is accompanied with that picture, Stugotz?
The Miami Marlins let go of a scout in need of a kidney transplant while he was in the hospital recovering from colon cancer surgery. Now, there's obviously nothing funny about that, but there's a big picture.
But the Jeter stuff, that Jeter keeps stepping in this PR stuff.
And here's what makes it worse, and Passon wrote an article about it. A mid-level manager delivered the news instead of Jeter himself. He had someone go to that guy and say, hey, you're no longer with us.
Yeah, we are stunningly headed down the path of A-Rod being more popular than Jeter. I don't know how, but Jeter's gaining speed fast. A-Rod never did anything like that.
No.
It was just steroids. Bucket of death next.